He even forgot that he sent that thing over Shlong.
That is getting killed. I would just say this makes all sense. I am going to try my from time to time. This is materialist. So I'm still looking at so these things. Right, let's begin our this channel and Thomas Dylan's family, but the longest they've ever taught. But now I don't remember the chance, which was also so taking messages right and the wind. So it's down, down, remember, we said you start by working on trust during your action. So we said that the T is the title. So as you prepare, make sure that you understand what the title of the book is required of understanding. If you look at the title and we look at the title invoking optimism and sorry, I'm reading from the wrong. Yeah, things in this to optimism. Please optimism. Right. So it refers to the poet's childhood hope and setting of pastoral elements. The title on its own begins to evoke feelings of nostalgia. Now, if you are nostalgic, we are looking at the longing of the past. You are, in retrospect, looking back in order to relive experiences of a pleasant nature. So it involves the feelings of nostalgia, innocence, as well as a natural beauty. That is our entry point into this particular book. The understanding of the title about one's childhood as well as his memories that are pastoral. Now, if you look at the word pastoral, we are able to look at the word pastor. And if you look at the word pastor, you would realize that a pastor is a shepherd, one who leads and one who guides, and most importantly, one who protects. Now, if you look at the word pastor as well, you also think of the word pasture or the pasture. This is a place from which um, your, your cows, sheep, and your goats graze. Now the pastures might be green, and the bones because the animal will begin to feed from it. So we are speaking about a speaker's look over the issue of memories that are of a pastoral nature. Right. Now, if you look at the words or the diction, that's the W. So we are looking at our words, diction, or word choice. You need to always ask yourself, what words have been used? Now, Thomas uses what we call a lyric or rich or a musical diction. I can look at words such as, let's look at some examples here. We are looking at, I'm looking at my notes as I'm going through here. The words and so now, as I was young, it's now we get young and it's about lifting out of the as the loss was the night about the still time everything and coming golden is of affection. So you need to know what golden refers to. So golden refers to youth, vitality, as well as beauty. So he is looking at these particular words in order to show his experience, and he says, and on that amount when I was prince of the April times, and once lower time I Lord had the trees and leaves, train with daisies and barn down the rivers of the windfall night, and as I was clean and careful, famous among the bucks about the happy yard and singing as the farm was whole. So the farm is not just a farm, and but this is home. And once you look at the word home, think of connotations of affection. You're looking at connotation of care. And you're also looking at a place of warmth. It's quite different from a house, which is just a building. But a home is a building in which affection is experienced, a care of a certain nature is experienced, and then finally, there is one in the particular a building called home. In the sun that is young ones that we are looking at his illumination, young one's own. And what is this? It is the sun that is said to be young one's own. You can also look at the sun as a fall sun is our speaker in this case is young one's own. Look at the word time. Time is capitalized with of the uppercase T. Now, this connotes that time is of paramount importance at this point. Now, we further on go to the next line, golden in the mercy of his needs. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm still going to reiterate. If you are going to sit in the exam with no knowledge of these, this is why I have given my time this week to go on to so that at least by the time you sit for the exam, you would have a chance of going on 12. So today we are up for 7, 8, and 9. Tomorrow, 10, 11, and 12. So tomorrow will be our last session. We will then session a night before you sit for your exam. Just for rush out, not to have a session where we go through a poem. Now, in breathing, again, there's a repetition between read and going. When we look at line 10, we see the mention of for the first time. In line 5, we see golden being mentioned. So golden and green are repeated. So there is a reason why these words as well as the explanation there. The word So this time is no longer just gold or Mogane, but he is real and right. I was huntsman as the cows sang to my horn. Now, if you look at the singing, if someone is said to sing to your horn, the horn in this case connotes authority. So now he is looking at the cows, the animal kingdom being under his authority or his control. The foxes on the hill barked clear and cold, and the stubborn ran slow. Now we get another mention of a biblical king, stubborn. So this is a figure of speech called sheep. Now why is Sabbath very important or significant? We are looking at Sabbath as a point of rest or calm. In the tables of the Holy Spirit, again, another biblical reference for illusion of Holy Streams. Now, if you look at biblical texts, Holy Streams has to do with tranquility. I hope you are taking these notes as they're going through this tranquility. We are also looking at a catharsis. It's a time for healing. So there's something about these holy streams that brings about a calmness and tranquil type of an approach to life and optimism that comes with these particular streams. And they also quench a thirst or a longing. All the sun long it was running, it was loving. The hay fields high as the house, the chimneys from the chimneys, it was air and pleasing, lovely and wanton, and fire breathing as glass. Now we have a fire breathing as glass, and nightly under the simple stars. I mean, he's still looking at the beauty of nature that he is going through as a, an inexperienced child. And nightly under the simple stars, as I go to sleep, I hope that out all of I blessed a nice day, the night jars flying with the bricks and the horses flashing into the dark. And then to wake, just give me a moment, tell me what's happening. But I'm so sorry, this thing has decided to erase every annotation that I've hopefully you will have been taking notes. Unfortunately, I can't get the time to at least minutes you actually spending. Can I also say this one last time? No, I don't think it's and it's a question right at the end of the session. Someone's hand still not that. So we are looking at the issue of all the sun moon was funny. It was lovely. It was here. But as now again, the fields high as the house is another thing. There. Tunes from the chimneys, it was gay and plain lovely and water and fire as that meat and spoons as another scene there against the an aesthetic element of fire that is compared to a certain element of at night under the simple stars, as I will just leave the house of them the far away on the moon island. So I will stay also the night guns around with the bricks and the horses flashing into the dark. And then to awake and the fun like a one over white with the dew and the pop of shone. It was all shining. It was a dawn and they again and the color of the drinking. A dawn and the day. The sky gathered again, but the sky gathered again. So we're looking at a down in the later and they are also looking at the imagery of it. The sky gathered again to be a personification. And the sun grew round that bend. So it must have been after the birth of the silver light in the forest, spilling past the smell of fossils, walking on, staying onto the fields of grace, and on among foxes and peasants by the gatehouse, and the two identified the gates. The word gate means joyful. It's an old word. It means happy. So it has nothing to do with the LGBTQI community so it's a house that is full of joy and moments under the moonlight. And happy as the light of love. The sun gone over and over again. As the sun gets it's sun so that the sun gone over and over. This I really like this waves which has waves with the house high and big I feel trees very long and in his beautiful turning again in all his beautiful turning so few and such morning songs before the children meet and go follow him out of this is on the throne loved by the shadow of that it's always the reason, know that life is just me, actually, and here, but that life forever lived for the child as it's unable to act history, legislate, and as I was and if you remember the study of the young and careful, let's go back and see it's young okay, he was young and easy, and then the night goes on a record down, and carefully. So now he is no longer and careful because he is now able of a show and speak about the benefits in the mercy of his is this mercy very true. It refers to the time. So time is at this point personified as one with a merciful approach to a human being. So time in the mercy of his ways and means helping and done. So he's no longer green and open, but he is not green and dying, yes, feeling the element of the passing of time, which reminds us that we are mortal. We are living into a approaching of last day, which is the day in which we are going to die. So at first, as being an inexperienced young man, he cannot stand that day. But when he speaks now towards the end, there is a shift from innocence and innocence and then experience of when now he speaks from a mature being or a mature person. It's now means that not only in life but it is going to also have it of the though I'm staying in chains, I must staying in my chains. What we have looked at here. So we have looked at first the title, and then the imagery that is our figures or our relative language. We have also looked at the structure. If you're looking at this poem, you realize that the structure that is used here. So, guys, the structure that is used in this case is long flowing lines and irregular stanzas which mimic the fluidity of memory and the passing of time. So the structure supports the nostalgic and reflective tone, creating a sense of movement and lyricism. So our imagery, we have the lush landscapes, sunlight, the fields, natural colors, which evoke idyllic childhood scenes. We have your personification where time is described as catching the child or running along, giving time agency. You've got your metaphors and your similes where childhood is compared to a golden feeling of fleeting world or world. So the effectiveness here is the imagery of light, greenery, and movement which captures the ephemeral beauty of youth, making the nostalgia tangible and emotionally resonant. Now let me not get into the depth of that because already your educators will clearly in terms of the series of this. Right. Let's get to questions and how unexpected, how we expected to answer. Now let's look at the instructional. So we always underline instructional groups. So what is the significance of the reference to colors? Remember, stand the word significance means importance. What is the importance of referring to colors in the book? Again, to go and look at what colors in the use. So we started off with let's look at golden 5. We went on to look at line 10. We went to line 14, golden, line 15, green, and golden. And then further on to line 22, green, and smart. And we went to uh, line 13, okay. So having we look at the use of coloring in context of green and gold is getting my looking for. So I'm looking at the importance of referring to these colors in the context of the book. So you're looking at what is the writer or the speaker referring to these colors. So you would say these colors represent A, B, and C. They are significant because the speaker is trying to. That's how you at 11.22. What does well suggest about Jones's view of the relationship between human kind and nature? Said yesterday, you should be in a point of identifying the triggers to the answer. First of all, we are looking at number 1, Thomas's view of the relationship. So, view of the relationship between humankind and nature. Looking at how Thomas looks at all of these things, he is trying to show us that there is a deep connection between nature and humanity. How is it that this connection standing to show what connection does humankind have based on the book? Please note, in this case, you're looking at the entire book, one to any line of any standard. So it will be very limiting of to only focus on a line when you look at the poem in its entirety. Now, refer to line 22. Rituals. Every time I refer to the line, go to the line, highlight, and check what triggers are in that question or that number, and fire 3 as class. It will be to the instruction or the question. Now, identify the figure of speech in this slide. Ladies and gents, this is a 1 mark question. And therefore, your answer needs to just be start by saying the figure of speech in line. This is how you waste your time. It's a difficult class activity. Of course, that's how you can. In this case, in the exam, just give us the figure of speech the same. Now, the follow-up question requires you to discuss. And by our discussion must follow so that the period. So you need to make your point, give us evidence, explain your evidence, and then you make it ready to the discussion that you are bringing on the team. Right. What are we discussing? The effectiveness of figure of speech identified. So look at the triggers to this question. Effectiveness of what the figure of speech, which is a simile. Again, a simile is a figure of speech responsible for having two things using as or. Now, please note, in your discussion of the effectiveness, we don't need to explain what a simile is. We already know the fact that you have identified a simile is enough. So tell us, what is compared to what? And how is that comparison effective? Now, let me use the word, how does it achieve success? So the whole purpose is to make you see things in a different way. So how does the author's use of simile as an effective way of discussing this? You look at what things about the fire and the grass. The last question, discuss. What are you discussing? The tone in the first stanzas of the poem explain and the change in tone in stanza. Now, please note, look at this question. It's a 3-mark question. And this is where many of you are lost. Again, don't just get excited and think you already understand the question without first getting to understand what the question is requiring of you. Number 1, we are discussing the tone. That's trigger 1. So that is the author's feeling or attitude towards their subject matter. The subject matter here In short, we are looking at a transition from innocence to experience. And this speaker is showing us, and he takes us through a journey of how this transition takes place by taking us through memory lane that is of a nostalgic experience or effect. So what is the tone in the first three stanzas? Again, you need to go there and figure out what tone. Now let's start here, because someone might not have it easy. So this is stanza 1, stanza number 2, and stanza 3. We are looking at the tone, but we are not done with the question. So let's go back. Tone in the first three stanzas of the poem. So that's the first trigger. After figuring out the tone, trigger number 2, we need to explain the turning point in the change in tone. So this is number 2. If you see a question like this, 1, discuss the tone. 2, indicate to the marker how the tone is at the beginning, and to what does your tone or the speaker's tone change. The tone of the speaker at this point was quite reminiscent, but towards the end of the poem, we see a sense of the speaker's stark reality, or he gets to realize that actually time moves and it is not static. So there's a sense of realizing reality. So he is at a point at first that he is immature because of the fact that he is still a child, and then later, from maturity, he realizes the effect or the importance of time that is passing. Now, what I've just done here, I might not or may not have given you an answer here, but I have given you the structure. If you need to speak about the turning point in the change of tone, where does the tone change? Before you tell us about the change, tell us it was this at first, but it begins to change here because of that, and it becomes this type of a tone. And that's how you are going to score your 3 marks. Right, let's quickly go to the shipwreck. Again, we are going to use our twist. I'm trying to get my notes again here, guys. So from time to time, you pick up that I am a bit distant from the microphone because I need to ensure that my stuff is in order. Again, we do this twist method at home. So when you get to the exam, you quickly draft it down. You highlight your title. You remember what it means. So the title immediately signals danger, shipwreck. It signals chaos and calamity. So Dickinson uses metaphorical language. So the shipwreck can symbolize emotional or existential existential crises, not just literal disaster. Now, so Dickinson uses a precise and economical diction, which is often stark. So we're going to look at words such as, let's just look at the words green storm is over, the great storm rather. Look at the great storm is over. And then we are also looking at words such as the wreck or the shipwreck. We also look at words such as the storm, there it is, the word tossed, and we are also looking at the conveyance of these words, and they are alluding ability to urgency, peril, and helplessness. So the choice of numerical vocabulary heightens the literal and the metaphorical sense of loss. Right. Let's look at the use of glee. Already, we can tell that there is a level of relief here. Why? Not just a storm, but the great storm is over. And be mindful of the use of the exclamation mark. For have recovered the land, have recovered the land. 40 gone down together. Now we're looking at a contrast here, or a numeric contrast. 4 have recovered, it means they were alive, they made it alive, but 40 have gone down together. And looking at gone down together, that is your euphemism. Instead of saying 40 died together, the speaker says 40 gone down together into the boiling sand. A ring for the scant salvation. Now, please note that in yesteryears, to indicate someone's death, there was a ringing of a bell. And these bells were understood by the sound they made, or the message that these bells had to convey was understood by the sound made. So we are ringing to announce the scant salvation. Salvation, we are looking at how others survived. But the survivors are said to be scant. Then tall, death, tall, for the bony souls. Look at this, bony souls connotes that these people were precious. In what sense? They are the speaker's neighbor, a friend, and someone's bridegroom. Now, the reference to this person as a bridegroom opens us up to feeling sympathetic towards this person, because it means that he had just gotten married and never experienced the life he had wished to have. So these bonny souls were found spinning upon the shoals. how they will tell the shipwreck when winter shakes the door, till the children ask, but the 40? So we have a rhetorical question here, because there is no response that is given to the children. Did they not, or did they come no more? And we are looking at the winter shaking the door. So here we are looking at the power of nature. So nature is very much powerful in that it has an effect of shaking doors. So number 13, then a silence suffuses the story. There's no answer. We wish to give you an answer, but the only answer we are able to give at this point is saying nothing at all. And the softness, the teller's eyes. Now, the softness, the teller's eyes would also connote that the silence is followed by a teary eye that softens the eye, because there is a level of pain in the teller's eyes, in the one who needs to tell the story. And the children, no further question. The fact that the children can no longer question further, it is indicative of the nature of a child in the face of silence. And since the elders cannot answer, only waves, or the nature, the boisterous nature called the waves, would reply. Right, let's look at a possible essay topic here. Now, Dickinson's poem examines, again, we said you need to start off by looking at the general statement of discussion. We are looking at the examination of how people are at the mercy of nature. How people is trigger number one. At the mercy of nature is trigger number two. What does it mean to be at someone's mercy? That's the first discussion that you need to bring into your presentation. What do you understand? If you are at mercy of someone, it connotes that you are powerless. It's a question of power. I remember Bessie Head's book, novel. It's a question of power. So it's a question of power here. Who is powerful? And when you look at the nature in this particular poem, you realize that human beings are powerless and they are at the mercy of nature. Right. You underline the instructional verb. So this is the question. Don't fear to write the essay mini, the poetry mini essay. Simply because we mark using a rubric. It's rare to fail this question. As long as you understand the topic, you can write the essay. So you're going to discuss the general statement of discussion, referring to diction. What words is the poet using to indicate the fact that the people are at the mercy of nature? What imagery, what pictures, what figures of speech or figurative language he uses to indicate that people are at the mercy of the time, but it's okay. Let's continue. Please do give me an indication by a thumbs up if you can see the text on the screen, guys. Can you see the text? Thank you. Right. So we looked at the fact that you are looking at how people are at the mercy of nature, focusing on trigger number 3, which is your diction, trigger 4, your imagery, and then the last trigger being the tone. What feeling, what attitude are we picking up from this stanza to stanza that reflects the issue of people being at the mercy of nature? Again, your response should take the form of a well-constructed essay. Now, learners, can I bring this to your attention? I think I will have to do this so that you can see it in person. Not in person, rather, so that you can see it as we discuss. I want to go and access a 2024 paper. A memo, because I don't want any of you to approach a poetry mini essay in this fashion. Now, if you look at the screen, this is from last year's question paper, 2024. Fan Hill was the essay topic. Now look at how the essay is presented here. It is presented in point form. Right. This point form is, I want to write it here, is only for markers, not learners. This is why the instruction is quite clear by saying the form of a well-constructed essay. Now, a well-constructed essay is going to have an introduction. It needs to have body paragraphs. Now, remember, your intro might use a tag or a taco approach. Title, author, general statement of discussion. Or title, author, keywords, outline. It depends on which approach works for you. You need to tell us the title of the poem, and the title must be underlined. You need to mention the author by their surname and give us the general statement or the keywords of the question. So it would be how the speaker examines the fact that people are at the mercy of nature. And this is going to be discussed with close reference to diction, imagery, and tone. Your body paragraphs, please remember, you need to use the Peel method throughout your body paragraphs. And then finally, you conclude. So your conclusion is now tying up everything back together without the introduction of new information. Excuse me. So we looked at the title and we looked at the words. So let's look at this again. Title, words. Now we're looking at imagery. Now there is a use of a metaphor where the shipwreck represents human vulnerability and existential struggle. The use of a personification where the storm is often described as having intent or force, creating tension and drama. Sorry. The visual imagery. We see the turbulent seas, shattered vessels, and tossing waves vividly depicting chaos. And these imagery tactics are effective in that the metaphorical and the visual imagery amplifies the reader's sense of danger, making the emotional impact more tangible. So by combining physical peril with psychological intensity, Dickinson captures the universality of struggle. Struggle is universal. Right. So we looked at title, words, imagery, and now we move to your structure. Now, structure, we don't know what our examiners got up to this year. They might use the word form for structure. So if you see the word form, think of structure. So when you look at the structure, Dickinson often used short, irregular stanzas and dashes and other punctuation marks to indicate pauses, disruptions, points of reflection on the chaos of a shipwreck. So when you look at the structure, you'll begin to pick up that it mimics the unpredictability of a storm. Storms are unpredictable. Of course, the weather forecast might say there is a storm brewing, but the effects of the storm would never be predictable. So we are looking at the fragmentation of human experience during crisis. And then finally, we have your tone. The tone is tense, anxious, and dramatic. We also look at the theme, which is the central message. Now, the theme is that of human fragility, mortality, and the forces beyond control, or the power of nature. And also it can tell us that life can be tumultuous and unpredictable, and human beings must confront vulnerability as well as the uncertainty which comes with life. Life is uncertain. Now, glee, the great storm is over. 4 have recovered the land, 40 gone down together into the boiling sand. Ring, for the scant salvation. Toil, for the bony souls, neighbor and friend and bridegroom spinning upon the shoals. How they will tell the shipwreck when the winter shakes the door, till the children ask. But the 40 If they come back no more, then a silence suffuses the story, and a softness the teller's eyes. And the children no longer question, and only the waves reply. There's a very strong line. People who are into poetry will just pause there and click their hands like that, because it's a serious line. Only the waves reply. Again, 12.2.1. Please pay attention. This is a double barrel question. If you look at this question and you only identify and you leave out the explanation, you are going to get 1 mark. Right. Let's underline the instructional verbs. Identify and explain. So we need to say this is that, or the mood in line 1 is that of. Now let's go to line 1. Glee, the storm is over. We can say the mood is that of relief. It is a mood of jubilation. Now we explain the speaker is happy at this point and expressing their emotions because that which was posing danger to lives had come to an end. That's your 2 marks. Now 12.2.2, refer to line 7. Again, every line to which you are referred must be highlighted. Neighbor and friend and bridegroom. Now let's go back to the question. What does the question require? Number 1, we are supposed to explain. What are we explaining? Why the victims of the shipwreck are described as what? As a neighbor, friend, and bridegroom. I mean, if you look at these words are communal. These are a community language. A neighbor is someone with whom I have a relationship based on the fact that we are from the same neighborhood. A friend is someone with whom I spend time and share the innermost parts of who I am. And most importantly, the bridegroom is the person with whom the bride shares their intimate moments. So these are, like we had taught you in life orientations, relationships. We have exposed you to 5 types of relationships. Your family, your friendship, romantic, working relationship, as well as a community. So these 3, neighbor is our community, friend is our friend, and bridegroom is our romantic relationship. So we are looking at neighbor or communalism, camaraderie, and intimacy. So why are the victims of the shipwreck described in this manner? I have already given you the answer there. 12.3, lines 3 to 4. Let's go to lines 3 to 4. 40, again, we said you highlight these lines. 40 gone down together into the boiling sand. Now let's look at some word choice here. 40 is a great number. Gone down together is euphemism. Into the boiling sand. So we've got 3 diction examples here. Right, let's go back to the question and figure out what exactly is the examiner trying to get us to say. Identify the figure of speech used in these lines. 40 had gone down together is our euphemism. In boiling sand is our metaphoric expression or a metaphor. So in this case, you have 2 figures of speech. And again, don't give us 2 of these. You are given lines 3 to 4, so you can pick whichever one. So if you say it is a metaphor, the follow-up question says, comment on the effectiveness of this image. Now, we are looking at number 1, identification, where you identify the figure of speech used in these lines. And we said we've got 2 of these, not a simile. We said it's euphemism. And also, we have a metaphor. Right. Next part is to comment on. What are you commenting on the effectiveness of this image? Again, how effective is the image created by either euphemism or the metaphor? We said the image is the picture. 40 gone down together. The boiling sand. There must be a particular image that gets created in your mind when you think about how these people passed on or how their lives were suddenly cut short by this particular shipwreck. 12.3.4 refer to lines 13 to 16. Let's go there. Don't forget to carry your highlighters with you. Remember, you are not allowed to borrow in the exam room. Then a silence suffuses the story, and a softness the teller's eye, and the children no further question, and only the waves reply. Let's look at the triggers. A silence suffuses the story. What story? The story of how people died. A softness, the teller's eye. The children, speaking of purity, innocence, no further question, and only the waves reply. Now, this is the power of nature. The waves reply, where the tellers, with the softness of the eye, can no longer give answers, and children no further question. Now, we have underlined the triggers that will enable us to answer the questions. Critically discuss. What are you critically discussing? The effectiveness of these lines as a conclusion. Now, I want you to look at this question. Let's look at the trigger, the effectiveness. That's trigger number 1. How effective is a conclusion to this poem, or the ending of this poem? So first, like that question of a central message, begin with how the poem concludes. The poem concludes at a point where the nature is given the power to respond when humanity cannot. First mark. This is effective in the ending of the poem because, and then you further now elaborate on that first point that you have made. How do you do so? You have made your point. You need to give us the evidence. Now, this is where your diction comes in. Now, let's look at the diction that we have underlined here. You have more than one. A silence suffusing the story. A softness, the teller's eye. The children, no further question, and only the waves reply. Two of these would be enough to be the evidence you need to give, and then the explanation as well as the link. Right. Let's see how far are we. All right, no, that's not where we are. That's an unseen poem. I wish to have a day where I look at least 2 unseen poems and how to attempt those. I think that would be on Saturday, so that on Sunday we brush up and then conclude. Let's go to my favorite. I have a number of favorites. Maybe someone is saying, yesterday he said this was his favorite. English educators have favorites. They favor everything. So forgive me for saying every poem is my favorite. I love all of them because every time I teach them, I learn something new. Right, the twist method. The title. The morning sun is shining. Now, looking at the title, we get a sense of optimism and renewal. Why? The sun is shining. So the verb here is shining, is giving a sense of continuity of the presence and the ability of this sun to remain radiant, to shine and brighten one's day. Right. When you look at, we are still looking at the title here, the morning sun is shining, symbolizes the beginning of a new day, hope, clarity, and enlightenment. So Schreiner often used nature as a mirror of human emotions. I love that. Because if you look at a mirror, Michael Jackson said, I'm looking at the man in the mirror and I'm asking him to change his ways. If I look at the mirror, I will always have the mirror reflect back to me the real aspect of who I am. So Schreiner, therefore, uses nature as a mirror of human emotion. So you look at a day that is beginning to be hopeful, a day of clarity and enlightenment that also comes to the state of our emotional health. I started asking my learners to check in every morning or before we start our session every day. Tell me, how do you feel? And I always have, I feel so good. Good is not an emotion. It's not a feeling. Attach a word to that feeling, and that's how you get your tone right. I feel sad today. I'm a bit despondent. Now, why are you despondent is the effectiveness of that feeling. I feel rejected because this happened and that followed up, which led me to this type of a feeling. So you need to be able to look at nature as a mirror through which you see yourself and then be able to say something about that. So the title primes readers for a meditation on life's beauty and possibilities. Let's look at the word choice or diction. You will get a question of diction. With reference to diction, explain or discuss, critically discuss. So when you get a diction question, make sure you quote examples from the text that further helps you answer that question. Now, Schreiner uses simple, clear, and natural diction, often drawing from everyday observations. Words like shining, warm, light convey positivity and vitality. The diction emphasizes openness and accessibility, reinforcing the theme of renewal and optimism. Now let's look at imagery. I love pronouncing it that way. So the sun is described as shining, evoking light and warmth. The morning sun is personified and given life, suggesting it can shine upon humans, which implies the world is responsive and alive. So these figures of speech are effective in personifying the sun, where Schreiner creates a sense of intimacy between nature and the reader. The image is comforting and uplifting, symbolizing the potential in each new day. Each day has a potential to do something, to either make you sad or happy. Let's go to the structure. How your poem looks like on paper. So it's likely a free verse, and the flow mirrors the gentle, steady unfolding of a morning. So the structure supports the poem's serene tone. Now let's look at the tone here. And the theme or the central message. So the tone is optimistic, reflective, and serene. The themes that we find here are those of renewal, hope, and harmony with nature. And therefore, we get an understanding that life holds beauty and potential mirrored in the consistency and the warmth of the sun. The morning sun is shining on the green willow tree. There's a repetition here. Shining on. And sends a golden sunbeam. Sends a golden sunbeam to dance upon my knee. The fountain bubbles merrily. Yellow locusts spring of life and light and sunshine. The happy brown birds sing. The earth is clothed with beauty. The air is filled with song. The yellow thorn trees load the wind with odors sweet and strong. There is a hand I never touch. Now there's a change of tone here. Now if you look at what Shriner is trying to do here, we get a sense of hopefulness. But once we get to line 13, we get a sense of a change. Because she says, there is a hand I never touch and a face I never see. Now, what is sunshine? What is song? Now, what is light to me? Now, there's a sense of a rhetorical question here. She is asking a question only God could answer, or only she would find answers within in order to be satisfied with the answer. So we get a sense that the morning sun could also refer to someone in Shriner's life whose ending contrasts the issue of is shining. Because what is sunshine now? I mean, we know sunshine has to do with the brightness of the day. What is song? Ladies and gentlemen, all of us are exposed to songs each and every day, and we know how each song starts us off on the brighter side of the day, despite the heavy feelings we have. But the speaker says, what is a song now? And what is light to me? Now there's a sense of melancholy here, or depression that we get here. Our speaker is depressed because if she questions the function of a light, the speaker is looking at its reverse, which is darkness. And this is the reality of depressed people. They would rather sit in a very dark place, both literally and figuratively. A point of darkness is where they will feel no one understands. I feel this alone. No one will ever, even how much I can explain, irrespective of how much I explain my feeling, no one will ever get the depth of how I feel. And sadly, this is where most of them end their lives. This is a very serious point to get to. And I always tell my learners, if you get to a point where you ask a question, now, what is light to me? Scream. Because it means you are now running on fumes. You are no longer running on empty. Right. The simplicity of the poem hides a deeper meaning. Very interesting topic. Number one, this poem uses a number of simple terms, but at the same time hides the deeper meaning that's triggered too. So discuss this statement with close reference to diction, style, and tone. Now, how is the use of simplicity hiding a deeper meaning. Boys and girls, it's so heartbreaking. I just heard news yesterday. My former learner committed suicide, and a month ago, I buried another former learner who committed suicide. Two common things about them: they always looked happy on their socials, posted jokes. Every day there was something we laughed about. But what we didn't know is the deeper meaning hidden in the simplicity of the jokes they share. So this is what this poem is trying to get from you. How is the simplicity of this poem hiding a deeper meaning behind this? And the deeper meaning is in the sense that there is a hand I never touch. That's where it begins. There's a life I might have lost, and that life's face I will never see. And therefore, what is the reason for sunshine and a song? And what is the reason for light? Because I feel the darkness in me, a place from which I cannot scream for help. So that is the deeper meaning we are looking at. So your essay must take the form of a well-constructed essay of about 1 page. Right, let's push and complete the session. Comment on. Remember to use your peel method. So what are we commenting on? How the poet uses color to create the mood of the first stanza. Let's go to the first stanza here. The morning sun is shining on the green, green willow tree and sends a golden sunbeam to dance upon my knees. The fountain bubbles merrily, the yellow locust spring. We see green, green, golden, yellow locusts as part of what we are looking at or referred to. So, right. How is color used to create the uses of color to create the mood? Now, what do these colors represent? What does yellow represent? What does green represent? What kind of mood is evoked by these particular colors is the question. 9.22. Refer to lines 3 to 4. Let's go to 3 to 4. And sends a golden sunbeam to dance upon my knees or knee. Now the willow tree or the green, green willow tree. So let's start here. Sending who? The morning sun is shining on the green, green willow tree and sends a golden sunbeam. So we have the identification, identify the figure of speech used in this example. So that is our simile there. Next point, explain. What are we explaining? What this image means in the context of the poem. Now, this should have been a 2-mark question instead of 1. What does this image mean? Then the last, not the last question, comment on. What are we commenting on? How the poet's use of sound contributes. There we go again. I don't know why this is doing this to me. How the poet's use of sound contributes to the impact of the poem. Now look at this question. It's very much loaded. We are commenting on how the poet's use of sound contributes. So we're looking at the use of sound. 1, contributes to the impact of the poem. 2. Then the last question for the night. I have sent you this document. You can work on the next set of questions because each poem has 2 sets. What I've done with you is the first set, and then you'll do the second set on your own. Feel free to share your answers with me when I do get time, because I'm right in the middle of marking. If I do, not if, when I get time, I will look at your answers and then give you a much needed feedback. So discuss the effectiveness of the poem's final question as the conclusion to the poem. So we are looking at the nature of this question being that of a rhetorical question. So there's a kind of a reflection that the speaker wants the reader to engage in. And as a conclusion, it is final because it makes the reader understand the depth and the height of the emotional aspect of our speaker. So again, let's look at the triggers, the effectiveness. That's 1 of the poem's final question as the conclusion. So this question is multi-layered. You need to pick up layers, because if you only speak of the question and you leave out its effectiveness as the conclusion to the poem, then you are not going to be able to get marks there. Thank you so much for joining me. This is TJ Mogane, all the way from Johannesburg, and I hope I did get to assist you today. What I need to do now quickly before I end the session, I need to paste. Let's find. All right, there we are. I'm going to paste the link to the register. Oh, it says you can't send the messages. Wow. For some, can you send the register to the YouTube people? I'll send it to you now. Someone says they can't hear me. Wow. Unfortunately, hopefully I was audible on YouTube. Please do check the YouTube video and see if you cannot hear me. For some, give me a thumbs up if you're able to hear me on the YouTube side, because I think I might not have. I mean, imagine going through all of this and no one hears you. Kosam? All right. Fungai, I'm not sure if this is you saying you can hear me or you have a question. So I've enabled your mic. Please talk to me.
Good evening, sir. You were not clear. Yes, you were not clear when you're doing Fen Hill, the first part up to the essay, but later on you were fine here on Teams.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you so much.
We tried to reach, but yeah, it's fine. Thank you, sir.
Okay, you're welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much, guys. I think we can call it a day. Tomorrow we are going to look at solitude, this winter coming, and we're going to finish off with the last poem. Let me check here. Prayer to Masks. Hopefully you will be able to join us. If you can't, you can still watch the YouTube videos and Please do practice, guys. Do practice. And I am telling you, with much practice or more practice, you will realize that this paper is not a nightmare. To all the colleagues joining us and our friends from the Free State, thank you so much for coming through, and our appreciation to their teacher. Meneer, we appreciate you and your learners as you prepare, and we hope we are going to be together again tomorrow as we finalize everything. Please note, as I close, we have looked at the writing of the novel essay that is For Life of Pi and Dorian Gray. We have already looked at how to answer contextual questions for those. We have already looked at all the plays, that is The Crucible, Hamlet, and Othello. I believe we do have a video on the drama. So if you have the link to today's broadcast, go through that link. It will take you through Mr. Kosam channel. And then you can pick up that video and watch in terms of how to approach the contextual questions to your drama. And now we are finalizing the poems with the 3 that's outstanding and to be covered tomorrow. Thank you so much, guys. Have a lovely evening. We will then pick up tomorrow, and then we are going to finish off on a high note. Have yourselves a great night. Please don't forget to sign the register. I see most of you did not sign yesterday's registers. Please sign yesterday's register as well as today's register. Good night to everyone.